I just got these two insane sets of Artex acrylic markers, and today we're putting them to test against the cheapest good marker set I could find, the 36 pieces touch markers. I'm gonna push these markers to their limits: color, blend, detail, texture, coverage, and by the end, you'll see exactly why good tools matter and which ones are actually worth your money. Let's start with the cheap ones. This is the 36-piece touch alcohol marker set that I bought in one of my local art stores. As far as I remember, this whole set was about $5, which is insane. They come in this nice little bag, something similar to Ohuhu markers. Let's see what they actually look like. As you can see, the colors are nicely labeled and each marker has two different tips, a fine tip for details and a chisel tip for larger areas, which is great for different kinds of drawings. The design is actually pretty nice. I like the all black look. I also did a quick swatch test to see how the colors look on paper, and as you can see, they look pretty decent so far. But of course, this is just one small area, so it doesn't really show how well they perform yet. But overall, they look like legit markers for now. Now, let's move on to the more expensive markers and see how they compare. First up is this beautiful 120 color anime acrylic set. Just look at this box, seriously, it might be the nicest packaging I've ever seen on a marker set. According to the box, these are water-based acrylic markers with brush tips, and they're made to work on multiple surfaces. On the back, you get a full preview of all 120 colors inside this set. Alright, let's open it up. Okay, so right away you're greeted with a thank you card and a sheet of color stickers. A nice touch that helps you organize and label your swatches. Now, compared to the cheap touch markers, this set is definitely more expensive, around $100, which honestly is not that much considering you get 120 different colors. There are other brands that charge more and give you way less. Let's talk about the markers themselves. Like the touch markers, these are also clearly labeled, but you only get one tip. So these are not dual markers, but that one tip is the best tip you can get, which is the brush tip. And in my opinion, the brush tip is the best tip for coloring. You can use it for both detailed and large areas. I really love the design of the markers. I did a quick swatch test with them, and as you can see, the colors look amazing on paper. But again, just like with the cheaper set, we'll have to do more testing to really see how they perform. Also, these are acrylic markers, not alcohol based. That means they're filled with actual paint, so they don't blend like alcohol markers. But you can do things with these that alcohol markers just can't do, like layering light over dark or painting on different surfaces like canvas, wood, and more. So far, I'm really impressed with this set. Next up, we have the 30 color skin tone brush tip set. And once again, the packaging is absolutely stunning. These markers are also water-based with brush tips, just like the 120 color set. Let's open them up. Inside you get a greeting card and a sticker sheet with all the colors included in the set. As you can see, all the markers here are skin tones, and they're done a great job covering a wide range. If you're doing character art or portraits, this set gives you pretty much everything you need. There's also a version of this 30-piece set that comes with other colors too, not just skin tones, so you can choose what works best for your style. This set costs around $30, so it's much more affordable than the big 120 set. Of course, you get fewer colors, but it's still great value. I think the best combination is to get both the 100 color set and this 30 color skin tone set. That way, for just over $100, you get 150 colors and pretty much every shade you'll ever need. Great design, great color selection, and again, the packaging is just outstanding. So, now that we've gone through all the sets, here's what we know so far. Artex markers are seriously impressive when it comes to design and packaging. I was a bit nervous about using acrylic markers on paper. I thought the paint would bleed or that it just wouldn't work, but when I swatched them, they actually looked and felt great. On the other hand, the touch markers are alcohol based. I'm pretty familiar with how they work, and during swatching they felt normal, but again, it's just the beginning. So just for reference, there are 150 markers for $120, which if you ask me is pretty insane. Now, the real test begins. Let's see how they actually perform when we start coloring for real. I prepared two identical drawings on the same type of paper. One for touch alcohol markers and one for 150 Artex markers. Let's start with the touch markers since I'm most familiar with alcohol markers. First, let's see which colors we'll need. With only 36 colors in this set, this is going to be a challenge. Okay, I picked out the colors, let's begin. Right away, it's hard to get an even fill with a fine tip, so I had to switch to chisel tip for larger areas. One thing I noticed is the ink feels different from other alcohol markers I've used. It actually bends the paper when there's too much ink in one spot, which has never happened before. And it feels like the markers could dry out any second. Okay, done. Here's the finished drawing. It's not bad, but it's also not good. Pretty much what I expected from a $5 set. Gets the job done, but not much more. Now, onto the 150 acrylic markers. I'm actually really excited to try this out. I have no idea what to expect. And if you notice, I didn't ink this one like I did with the alcohol markers. That's because the paint would mess up the ink and I'd have to redo everything. So I'll ink it after the coloring is done. Wow. This brush tip is fantastic. The feel is almost the same as better quality alcohol markers, but the colors look even smoother and cleaner. It's really amazing. My plan here is to color the lighter areas first, then go in with the darker tones for shadows. Also, I have to say it again, swatching is such a cheat code. It makes it so easy to pick the perfect colors for your drawings without guessing. The paper does bend a bit, but that's expected since this is actual paint and not ink. The colors go on super evenly and it honestly just feels amazing to use. And here's the crazy part. I don't usually enjoy painting, but this doesn't even feel like painting. It's incredible. Now, let's look at the drawings side by side. The one that felt more satisfying to do was definitely this one. I mean, it's just unreal how smooth these markers are. As for the touch markers, they were a bit disappointing. The ink didn't behave well on paper and the whole experience just felt off. But technically, both sets passed the test. They get the job done. That said, there's one more thing I want to try with these acrylic markers, something that alcohol markers definitely can't do. Most people think all markers work the same. Once the color is down, that's it, you can change it. But acrylic markers play by different rules, and this is where things start to get really fun. I found two different techniques that you can use for acrylic markers and I want to try them both. The first technique that I wanted to try is layering light colors over dark ones, something you can do with alcohol markers. With acrylic markers, you can color everything in darkened tones first and then go back and add highlights on top. So I decided to test it out. And just to make it more challenging, I'm doing this on paper, which for me is usually the hardest surface to work on with paint. I wanted to see how well the markers can handle it, whether the paper would get damaged or if the paint would bleed. But anyway, once the paint dries, it's amazing. Going over dark areas with lighter color feels almost like you're coloring digitally, super clean and super smooth. So far, I can say that this technique works perfectly fine, and it opens up a whole new way to color traditionally. Now, I was even more excited to try this next technique, blending with water or blending while the paint is still wet. The idea here is to mix colors together before they fully dry, which will give you a much softer, more natural blend, perfect for gradients or shading. That said, this method is definitely more challenging than layering. You have to time it right, the paint dries pretty fast, and you need to know how much water you need to use without overdoing it. If you use too much water, you risk damaging your drawing. That's why I'm using this water brush pen. You just squeeze it slightly and it releases a small, controlled amount of water. Perfect for this kind of work. Alright, here's the final result. I know it's not perfect, but with more practice I could definitely get smoother blends. But I'm actually pretty happy with how it turned out. Both of these methods were really fun to try, and the Artex markers passed the test for both of these. I know I said this before, but I really mean it. They don't feel like paint markers at all. They give you so much control, and that's what blows my mind. In this video, I tested cheap alcohol markers and two different sets of acrylic markers, tried out advanced techniques like layering and wet blending, and honestly, I'm kinda blown away. My thoughts on the touch markers were expected for their price. They're usable, but nothing impressive. They're fine for coloring small drawings or areas, but I didn't like how the ink bends the paper. And that feeling like they could dry out any second isn't fun to work with. But the Artex markers completely surprised me. The biggest shock was how they don't feel like traditional paint markers at all, even if you never painted before. These are so easy to use that I honestly think anyone could try them out and get good results pretty quickly. That said, I wouldn't recommend using them for huge drawings. They feel more suited for smaller illustrations around A4 size or less. But in terms of ink flow and quality, they held up great the whole time. I never felt like they were drying out or running low. If you're someone who loves traditional art but wants that digital look, these might just be what you're looking for. Now, is $130 for these markers a fair price, or is it a lot? If you ask me, I think it is. You're getting 150 markers with a huge range of colors and great quality. When you think about it, that is really a lot. And while it's true that you don't need expensive tools to be a great artist, when you find something that offers great performance and a good deal, why not take advantage of it? Better tools can only help you become better faster. Let me know in the comments which set impressed you the most and if you tried any of these yourself. And if you want to see a full tutorial using these markers or more tests like this, let me know. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video.